Welcome to Mirestate, honey, where the lights are cheap, the booze is warm, and somebody's always betting more than they can afford. Cards, fists, blood money, borrowed luck. Around here, folks don't chase fun because life is sweet. They chase it because forgetting hurts less than remembering. In the gambling dens, they'll smile while they rob you blind. In the pits, they'll cheer while two poor bastards beat each other half to death for a crowd that's already dead inside. But don't look so shocked, sweetheart. In Mirestate, entertainment was never about joy. It's about hunger, power, and seeing who still has enough fire left to make the room look alive. And then there's the Iron Pit Arena, a lovely little shrine built for busted teeth, bad decisions, and the kind of cheering you only hear from people who stopped believing in mercy a long time ago. Scrap walls, torchlight, chain link fencing. Dress it up however you like, sweetheart. At the end of the night, it's still two bodies in the dirt and a crowd praying somebody falls before they do. Some come here to prove they're strong. Some come here because they owe too much. And some poor fools step into the circle just to feel the world say their name for once. Out here, glory is cheap, survival is expensive, and every match sells the same sweet lie, that maybe tonight, pain means something. And there it is, sweetheart. The part the crowd paid for. No titles, no honor, no pretty speeches. Just one slab of meat trying to cave in another before the mud drinks them both. One's built like a wrecking machine. The other looks half dead already. And somehow, that only makes people lean in closer. Mirestate loves a mismatch almost as much as it loves a funeral. Every punch says the same thing. I'm still here. Every step back says something louder. Not for long. And the crowd? Oh, they'll call it sport. Makes it easier to cheer when you give suffering a nickname. Every pit needs a voice, sweetheart. Somebody loud enough to make slaughter sound like a celebration. That's the caller. Half salesman, half preacher, and all grin. He doesn't sell tickets, he sells fever. Makes the crowd feel like they came for glory, not to watch desperation bleed in public. Names get bigger in his mouth. Losers sound dangerous. Butchers sound noble. And for a few sweet minutes, the whole rotten place believes the lie together. Funny thing is, honey, sometimes the loudest man in the arena isn't the fighter. It's the one teaching the crowd when to howl. And here's the real engine under all that noise, sweetheart. Not rage, not pride. Money. Look close. Hands shaking, eyes burning, bills changing owners faster than promises in a bad marriage. The crowd doesn't just watch the fight. They feed on it. The bookmaker writes like a priest taking confession. Names, odds, debts, dreams, all stacked on the same filthy table. All worth less the second the bell rings. That's Mirestate for you, honey. Even hope has odds on it. And the house always smiles before it takes your last coin. And there they are, sweetheart. The faces that keep the Iron Pit breathing. The darlings, the monsters, the long shots, and the poor idiots too stubborn to stay down. Some wear scars like medals, some wear silence like armor, but every last one of them walked in knowing the same thing. The crowd only loves you while you're dangerous. Up close, they almost look like legends. Give it a few rounds and they'll look like rent unpaid, bones overworked, and pride running on fumes. That's the trick, honey. The arena doesn't need heroes. It just needs survivors who still photograph well before the fall. And when the Iron Pit wants the crowd a little louder, sweetheart, they close the circle and raise the fence. Nothing makes people cheer harder than knowing there's nowhere left to run. No corners to hide in, no easy exits, no mercy waiting outside the wire. Just steel, mud, bad breath, and the sound of 100 strangers deciding how much your pain is worth. Funny thing is, the cage doesn't just trap the fighters. It traps the crowd, too. Once that gate shuts, everybody in the place starts wanting the same ugly thing. They call it a special event, honey. But let's be honest, it's just desperation with better lighting. And when even the cage starts feeling too civilized, sweetheart, they drag the fighters out here, the drop pit. No polished floor, no graceful exits, no illusion of fairness. Just a cracked slab over mud and ruin, with a crowd leaning in like vultures, waiting to see what falls first, the body or the will. Out here, every shove matters. Every step can cost you teeth, pride, or the little strength you were saving for tomorrow. They call it a tougher stage, honey. I call it honesty. Strip away the rules, raise the lights, and suddenly everybody remembers what this place was built for. And there he is, sweetheart. Still standing, still breathing, still soaking up the noise like it means he won something that can actually be kept. The crowd sees a conqueror. I see split skin, borrowed glory, and a man who just sold another piece of himself for one more night above the dirt. That's the sweetest lie the Iron Pit ever learned to tell. If you're the last one upright, people call it victory instead of survival. So cheer loud, honey. Tonight, he gets the roar, the money, maybe even a name worth remembering. Tomorrow, he's just another body wondering how much longer applause can hold bone together. And then, the crown jewel of this filthy little kingdom, the champion of the pit. Bigger than fear, louder than reason, and mean enough to make a whole crowd believe brutality can pass for greatness. Out there, they don't cheer because he's human, honey. They cheer because he makes them forget they are. That's what a champion really is in Mirestate. Not the best man in the ring, just the last monster the crowd still wants to worship. And this one, sweetheart, this is the Iron King. Not just a fighter, not just a champion. A man dressed up in myth and fed to the crowd like a god with bruised knuckles. Look at him, crown on his head, steel on his shoulders, blood still drying on his skin. Mirestate loves that kind of picture. Power you can point at, violence you can worship. Men like him don't just win fights, honey. They become the reason other fools start believing pain might turn them into something bigger than hunger. But crowns rust, legends limp, and every king in the pit keeps learning the same hard truth. The crowd never loves the man, only the throne he's still standing on. And this nightmare in flesh and iron, sweetheart, they call him Grinder. Not because he wins clean, and sure as hell not because he leaves anything whole. He doesn't fight like a man. He closes in like machinery. Loud, ugly, unstoppable. The kind that doesn't care what screams while it's working. The crowd loves him for the same reason children love storms. Big noise, broken things, and the thrill of watching somebody else get hit first. That's Grinder, honey. Not a champion, not a hero, not even a beast to be tamed. Just the sound this place makes when brutality finally grows a body. And then there's Crow, sweetheart. The kind of man who looks like he was stitched together from bad omens and unfinished threats. He's not the biggest in the pit. That would be too easy. No, Crow wins the old-fashioned way, by making sure you're scared, off balance, and bleeding before you even understand the rhythm of the fight. Watch him close, honey. He moves like a rumor in a dark alley. Low, mean, and always a half second away from doing something that'll make the crowd scream. That's Crow for you. Not a storm like Grinder, not a king like Iron King. Just the smile this place wears when it wants cruelty to feel personal. And then comes Frost Widow, sweetheart. The kind of woman who doesn't need to roar to make a whole arena hold its breath. No wasted motion, no cheap theatrics, no mercy dressed up as style. She fights like cold weather rolling in, quiet at first, and deadly by the time you realize it's already inside your bones. The boys in the crowd call her beautiful, honey. That's because fools always need a pretty word for the things that scare them most. That's Frost Widow. Not fire, not fury, not noise. Just precision so clean it makes brutality look elegant for one terrible little second. And then, Titan. Not a nickname, sweetheart. A warning. No crown, no costume, no clever little myth to dress him up. He doesn't need any of that. He walks in bare, brutal, and certain, like the pit finally gave up pretending it was built for sport. Men like Iron King make people believe in power. Monsters like Grinder make them cheer for destruction. But Titan makes the whole arena go quiet for half a heartbeat because everybody suddenly remembers what fear feels like without a story wrapped around it. That's Titan, honey. Not the king of the pit. Not the beast of it. Just the truth at the bottom of the whole rotten show. That sooner or later, everything here was always going to kneel to something bigger. Welcome to Mired Dice, sweetheart, where the room stays quiet, the liquor stays mean, and every man at the table acts like luck still owes him something. No screaming crowds, no grand entrances, no steel cage to dress up the desperation. Just dice, dirty wood, and 5 hard faces trying not to blink first. Around here, the game isn't really about numbers. It's about nerve, about whose hand stays steady, whose jaw stays locked, and who's dumb enough to think one more roll will fix a bad night. That's tavern gambling in Mirestate, honey. Nobody comes to the table because life is kind. They come because for a few sweet minutes, chance feels cheaper than truth. And then you've got Red Leaf Hold, sweetheart. Same hunger, better manners. Velvet chairs, cracked mirrors, polished voices. All just a prettier costume for people trying to take each other apart with a smile. Out here, nobody throws dice across dirty wood. They deal cards slow, stack chips neat, and pretend restraint makes greed look respectable. But don't let the drapes fool you, honey. A tavern cheat will rob you with his hands. A red leaf player robs you with patience, and somehow makes you thank him for the lesson. That's the trick of classy gambling in Mirestate. Same old desperation, just dressed in perfume, candlelight, and the lie that losing quietly hurts any less. Then there's Scrap Shot, sweetheart. The kind of market game that lets a man call it entertainment while he points a rifle at something and pretends that makes him steady. Bottles, plates, hanging scrap. Line up the targets, place your wager, and let the whole crowd watch whether your hands are as calm as your mouth. Some come to win coin, some come to show off, and some poor fool always steps up because missing a shot hurts less than admitting he's scared to take one. That's Mirestate for you, honey. Even target practice turns into a wager. Rubber shot, not live rounds, but pride still stings worse than the bruises. Down below, sweetheart, they've got a quicker kind of gamble. Quick draw pot. 2 shooters, 1 call, and a steel plate waiting to find out whose hands really deserve all that swagger. No long speech, no second chances. The caller shouts, "Draw!" The guns come up, and every eye in the room jumps to the plate. First clean hit takes the round. Half the crowd bets on speed, honey. The smarter half bets on control, on who keeps the wrist straight, the breath steady, and the ego from yanking the trigger too soon. That's quick draw pot in Mirestate. Not a duel to the death, just pride, timing, and one loud piece of metal deciding who gets to walk away smiling. And at the center of all that polished greed, sweetheart, stands Selena Crowley. Silk voice, steady hands, and the kind of smile that never forgets what you owe. She runs the room the way good dealers run a table. Clean, quiet, and one step ahead of every fool who thinks manners make mercy. Men come in hoping to beat the cards, honey. Most of them never notice they were really playing against her balance sheet all along. That's Selena Crowley for you. Classy enough to make ruin look civilized, and cold enough to make sure the house never bleeds with the players. And then there's Marcus Drain, sweetheart. The kind of man who doesn't have to raise his voice because the whole room already knows what silence costs around him. He runs the tavern games and the underground rooms, the same way he runs his books. Heavy, clean, and without a single misplaced coin escaping his notice. Most gamblers worry about bad luck, honey. The smarter ones worry about Marcus remembering their face after they get clever with the house. That's Marcus Drain for you. Not flashy enough to be the show, not soft enough to be mistaken for furniture. Just the weight in the room that reminds everybody the house doesn't forget. And then there's Lucia Valdez, sweetheart. All sparkle, sharp teeth, and the kind of charm that can turn a dusty market stall into a payday before noon. She doesn't run gambling like a ledger clerk. She runs it like a street festival. Loud, bright, irresistible, and always one heartbeat away from somebody spending more than they meant to. Scrap shot, side bets, crowd favorites, sudden odds shifts. Lucia knows exactly how to make people feel like they came for fun, when really they came to feed the pot. That's Lucia Valdez for you. Too glamorous to look dangerous, too smart to miss a profit, and just popular enough to make losing feel like part of the show. And finally, sweetheart, there's Elias Wren. Not the face of the house, not the charm, just the numbers wearing a man's skin. He doesn't need applause, and he sure doesn't need attention. While louder people work the room, Elias is busy deciding what every risk is worth and how much the house intends to keep. Gamblers think they're playing the cards, honey. The smarter ones know they're playing the odds. The smartest know Elias already adjusted those before they even sat down. That's Elias Wren for you. Not the smile that welcomes you in, not the hand that takes your chips, just the quiet little mind making sure the house wins even when the room thinks it got lucky. And then there's Mara Vale, sweetheart. Clean notes, and the kind of eyes that never waste a rumor on someone who can't afford it. She doesn't sell gossip like drunks do. Mara sells timing. Who's injured? Who's desperate? Who smells like a fixed fight before the bell even rings? On the surface, honey, she's just another woman with ledgers and lists. But scratch a little deeper, and you'll find half the room is betting with numbers she put in their heads. That's Mara Vale for you. Not a news vendor, not a harmless bookkeeper. Just the quiet little pulse that keeps the odds twitching before anybody notices the blood move. And then there's Devin Kale, sweetheart. The kind of man who can read a room before the door even finishes creaking shut. He used to move cargo. Now he moves something even more dangerous. Certainty. Who's bluffing? Who's drowning? Who's one bad hand away from selling tomorrow for tonight? Devin doesn't need ledgers like Mara, honey. He works off glances, pauses, empty bottles, and the way a man touches his chips when the luck's already gone cold. That's Devin Kale for you. Not a rumor seller, not a loudmouth prophet, just a patient hunter making sure bad nights always find the right buyer. And then there's Izara Moreno, sweetheart. All quick smiles, quicker words, and the kind of charm that makes people forget they're being measured while they're laughing. She'll hand out cheap little rumors like candy. Who lost big, who drank too much, who's sleeping where they shouldn't. But the real goods? Those come with a different price. That's Izara's trick, honey. She makes the room feel like it's gossiping for fun, when really she's sorting the curious from the desperate, and the desperate from the dangerous. That's Izara Moreno for you. Too friendly to fear at first, too sharp to fool for long, and just sweet enough to make people pay extra for the truth they were already hoping to hear. And then there's Han Jun-suk, sweetheart, the quiet kind. No sales pitch, no wasted breath, just a man who looks at a room like it's already confessed. He doesn't chase customers, and he sure doesn't trade in cheap excitement. Han waits, watches, counts. Then, when the right person sits down, he gives them something rarer than rumor, a number that holds. Mara sells timing, Devin sells instinct, Izara sells flavor. Han sells the part that makes gamblers stop smiling and start doing math in their heads. That's Han Jun-suk for you. Not a gossip broker, not a showman. Just the cold edge of certainty, priced high enough that only the serious fools ever ask for it. And then there's Tanya Redcross, sweetheart. The kind of woman who doesn't need to bark orders because her posture already sounds like one. She came up as a bodyguard, and it shows. No wasted motion, no cheap temper. No need to prove she's dangerous. Tanya steps forward, and trouble usually remembers somewhere else it ought to be. Funny thing is, honey, the loud ones always think size is what matters. Then Tanya closes the distance, and suddenly they learn how fast, not small, can become too late. That's Tanya Redcross for you. Not a show fighter, not a barroom brute, just the clean, hard edge of order, making sure the house stays standing after everybody else forgets how to behave. And then there's Grant Holloway, sweetheart, the kind of man who makes a doorway feel smaller just by standing in it. He's the face on the door, the weight behind the warning, and the reason most drunks remember their manners before they finish the second bad idea. Grant doesn't waste time shouting, honey. He just steps in close, lets you understand the math, and suddenly the room gets a whole lot more cooperative. That's Grant Holloway for you. Not subtle, not elegant, not interested in debate. Just the human version of a locked gate, reminding people some thresholds only get crossed once. And then there's Jamal Quinn, sweetheart, the quiet kind of trouble. He doesn't crowd a room, doesn't make speeches. He just stands where the exit used to feel easy. Jamal isn't built for barroom theatrics. He's built for endings, for the slow realization that the door's covered, the alley's watched, and the smart play would have been leaving yesterday. Funny thing is, honey, the loud ones fear fists, the smarter ones fear patience, and Jamal's got the kind that can wait all night for your luck to run out and your options to do the same. That's Jamal Quinn for you. Not the punch you brag about surviving, just the locked horizon at the end of a bad decision, making sure nobody who owes the house mistakes distance for freedom. And then there's Mei Lin Solo, sweetheart. The kind of woman who can stand in plain sight and still make people realize too late they should have been watching the shadows. She's not there to break the room. She's there to catch the twitch, the marked card, the little handoff by the back door, and the fool who thought nobody noticed. Funny thing is, honey, cheaters always imagine danger arrives loud. Then Mei Lin is suddenly at their shoulder, and the whole trick goes cold before they can even finish smiling. That's Mei Lin Solo for you. Not the fist at the front door, not the threat across the table, just the quiet little certainty that makes bad ideas die before they get to run. And then there's Ophelia Sands, sweetheart. Soft voice, steady eyes, and the kind of patience that makes debt feel less like a number and more like weather closing in. She doesn't waste time with cheap threats. Ophelia works the quieter way. Doors closing, names drying up, favors disappearing. until the fool on the other side realizes running out of road and running out of friends are usually the same thing. Paper matters in her hands, honey. A signature, a witness, a little scrap of promise somebody thought the bottle would bury by morning. She can make old ink feel brand new when it's time to collect. That's Ophelia Sands for you. Not the loud knock on the door, not the fist through your teeth, just the slow, elegant certainty that by the time she sits down across from you, the argument already lost. And then there's Ruben Garza, sweetheart. The kind of man who walks a market lane like he already knows which debt is hiding behind which smile. He's field-born, road-taught, and far too familiar with the ways people vanish when payment comes due. Inns, stalls, side alleys, trader camps. Ruben knows where desperation likes to change clothes. Some collectors bang on doors, honey. Ruben just follows the trail. The missed meal, the borrowed bed, the look over the shoulder that says somebody's already counting the days wrong. That's Ruben Garza for you. Not the threat in the letter, not the voice across the table, just the dust on your trail deciding you were never really gone in the first place. And then there's Adiola Bain, sweetheart. Elegant posture, measured voice, and the kind of calm that only shows up when mercy already packed its bags. On paper, she's the negotiator. In practice, she's the moment the negotiation stops being a favor and starts sounding like the last clean offer you're ever going to get. Funny thing is, honey, people relax when the voice stays soft. Then Adiola opens the ledger, names the number, and suddenly everybody in the room remembers that grace and finality can wear the same perfume. That's Adiola Bain for you. Not the first warning, not the rough collection crew, just the polished little certainty that tells you the deadline didn't bend. It ended. And then there's Yuri Kozak, sweetheart. The kind of man who looks less like a warning and more like the part after warnings stop mattering. He's not sent for late payments or pretty excuses. Yuri handles the cases that stopped being conversations a long time ago. When paper fails, when pressure fails, when people start mistaking delay for escape, that's when he arrives. Funny thing is, honey, he doesn't look angry. Doesn't look eager either. He just takes inventory with those empty eyes. What's owed, what's left, what can still be carried out the door. That's Yuri Kozak for you. Not the threat, not the chase, not the bargain. Just the cold little answer waiting at the end, making sure the house gets something back even when Mercy got nothing. So that's Mirestate, sweetheart. Cards on the table, blood in the dirt, rumors in the smoke, and somebody always counting what the night still owes. The games change, the faces change, the stakes get dressed up in velvet or mud, but underneath it all, it's the same old hunger wearing a different grin. People like to say gambling is foolish, honey. Fighting too, maybe. But in a broken world, even foolish things start looking a lot like proof that people still want more than survival. And maybe that's the real joke of it all. Civilization didn't die when the world fell apart. It just learned to drink harder, bet bigger, and smile with broken teeth.
I'm bleeding through the dust again. Cheap perfume and a busted grin. Cards on fire in a one-eyed room. Someone laughs like a loaded wound. Raise your glass to the great unknown. To the teeth, to the blood, to the house we own. Everybody here's got scars to show, and the night still wants a little more. Bet on the broken, bet on the booze, bet on the ones with nothing to lose. Hands in the dirt, hearts in the smoke. We keep on dancing with the dead man's joke. Bet on a broken, bet on a fight. Gold in a gutter, fire in the lights. No one gets out clean, that's true. So tell me, baby, what have you got to lose? Boots on the rail and fists on the line. Crowd goes wild for a borrowed spine. Every winner leaves with less than before. Every loser still comes back for more. Spin that wheel till the bearings cry. Let the saints look down and avert their eyes. Ain't no mercy in a room this loud. Just the hunger and the betting crowd. Bet on the broken, bet on the bruised, bet on the ones with nothing to lose. Hands in the dirt, hearts in the scope. You keep on dancing with the dead man's joke. Bet on the broken, bet on the fight. Gold in the gutter, fire in the lights. No one gets out clean, that's true. So tell me, baby, what have you got to lose? If the house wins, let it take my name. If I go down, I'll go down the same. Laughing slow in the neon rain. Like a fool too mean to break. Bet on the broken, bet on the bruised, bet on the wild with a fuse half used. Teeth in a grin, ash on the tongue. Sing for the damned and the half undone. Bet on the broken, bet on the night. Bet on the fools who still love the fight.